All right, and welcome back to the Max Out Your Life podcast. Today, we have a very good topic. We always have good topics, I kind of feel like. I mean, maybe I'm just biased, but
They've been pretty good.
I've enjoyed doing this, man. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most underrated things about health and fitness as a whole. I mean, I feel like it's at least one of the top three
Very underappreciated.
For sure. And this is actually one of the things that we've been doing our whole life, but most people are doing wrong.
Yeah. I know I for sure have.
Yeah.
For pretty much my whole life. Still not great at it.
Yeah. Two things that actually we've been doing our entire lives, and most of them are wrong. This one is the only one we're going to talk about today. We'll save another one for another day. But we're going to talk about a way to not only boost your cognitive functions, but also your performance at work, in the gym, at home, your energy levels, and all of this is simply done by sleep. I know as soon as you heard that one, you're like, oh, seriously, I don't want to listen to this. No, you need to stay tuned today because I'm telling you some of the things you're going to hear is going to really change your perception on sleep. At least that's our goal for today. So,
yeah, and exactly. Why should people stay on? Why should people listen to what we have to talk about? Sleep. I mean, you kind of mentioned a few with the cognitive, the performance.
Yeah.
But like, why is that so important?
It's so, I think it's one of those things like when you're growing up and you tell someone like, yeah, I love you, you know what I mean? Like, but you don't really understand what the word means yet. I feel like that's how it is with sleep. Like people say, oh yeah, I know it's important, but yet there's no prioritization of it like at all. It's like, I'll sleep when I dead. I sleep when I dead.
I did.
I dead. There's no real focus on it, right? It's like, I understand hustling and I understand having to grind. Like, I totally get that. If you live your life like that, like your life is shortened. I mean, they've shown in studies how sleep deprivation is directly linked to a whole bunch of health issues. I mean, even as far as like certain cancers, because your body's not sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
The stress that your body takes on throughout your entire day, working out, life, whatever it is only repaired when you sleep. So if you're not sleeping right and you're not sleeping, I don't want to say enough, but if the quality of your sleep is what's more important than the quantity of your sleep. There's always like that, you need to sleep 7 to 9 hours, and that's maybe a general rule, but it's more about the quality of your sleep. So the reason that people should be listening today is like, how can I get a boost out of my life without doing anything else than something that I'm already doing? I mean, everyone sleeps, right? All we're talking about is how to improve that so you can improve your life. I mean, it'll happen in a very short order too.
Mm-hmm. So what's actually going on in the body when we sleep? Like what is happening that allows it to be so powerful?
So in the earlier days, the thought was that the brain was actually shutting off. That's not actually the case. What's happening is the brain goes into a different state of waves. And it's going into these other brain waves that it actually is allowing the body to repair and recover. And there's release of hormones that you allow your body to repair that you're not going to get in this awakened state. So the better that you sleep, the better your body is able to repair, the better your body is able to think through problems, because it's like having a cut on your arm and you keep ripping the scab off over and over again. Like, yeah, it's kind of healing and maybe eventually we'll get there, but it's not nearly as good as it could if you just left it alone. And that's what it's like with sleep. Like when you're not focusing on sleep and you're not getting the quality of sleep that you actually need, your body's in a constant stage of having its battery not completely full. And by doing that, you're leaving a lot of everything on the table. If you're if you're a parent, then it means maybe a shorter fuse with the kids. Or if you're married and you don't have kids, or if you do, whatever, it's not been able to be the best person that you could be for your spouse or even for yourself because you're just not sleeping. Your body literally can't operate the way it's intended to be. It's like you're a Ferrari, or you have the potential of a Ferrari, but you're a Mazda Miata or something. I don't know. That's the first thing that came to my mind. I'm not bashing on that car. It was just the first thing that came to my head.
Yeah. You're just not tapping into the potential that you could if you got a good night's sleep.
Yeah,
on a consistent basis.
On a consistent basis, which is interesting that has so much to do with it. It's actually like your wake up and go to bed times also has a huge deal with how your sleep works. So if you, like shift workers, if you talk to a lot of shift workers, that's why they have a lot of health issues, because they're not waking up and going to bed with the sun, which affects the dopamine response that you have in your body. And then a lot of them, when they don't have to go to work, they will go to bed at a different time, and it messes them up.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of people are like surgeons and nurses also tend to have a lot of issues like that as well.
Yeah, your whole sleep cycle's off,
Yeah,
your
exactly.
rhythm's off. Yeah. You kind of hinted at it earlier as far as quantity versus quality.
Yeah.
So I could sleep for 8 hours and it be trash sleep.
Yeah, for sure.
Or I could sleep for like 5 hours and it'd be amazing and I could feel better. So in terms of that, like why is that so important? The quality of the sleep.
Yeah, because it's how long the body is between your deep and your REM cycles. That's actually where the majority of that recovery is happening. And so if your sleep cycles keep getting interrupting, then it's like, kind of like back to the battery I was just talking about. It's like charging your phone and getting to like 40% and unplugging it and then plugging it back in again. And then unplugging it after another 10 and then plugging it back in again. Like, it's not going to fill all the way up because you keep unplugging it. And that's kind of what's happening with the body. So interesting thing, I was reading this really good book. It's called Sleep Smarter. And the guy's name is, I forget his first name, but Stevenson, I believe is his last name. And he had this really interesting story about how he had this degenerating bone disease that he got in, I believe it was high school. As he's running track, he like falls and he tore his hip or broke his hip or something like that. And they were like, well, we don't really have anything for you. Here's a bunch of pills and good luck to you. And he tries moving on with his life, and he's like falling asleep in class, and basically like his quality of life is just pretty crappy. So what he starts doing is he starts really focusing on his micronutrients and starts doing a bunch of juicing, like a ton of juicing, and he really started focusing in on his sleep. So I think it was 3 or 4 years later, he was able to reverse it, and he doesn't have this degenerating bone thing anymore. And so I just think it speaks to the power of sleep as a whole. Now, obviously, he's focusing on macronutrients, so he's not just sleep. But the point of what I was getting at with all of this is he puts together this book on all of these different ways to teach your body how to sleep, which for anybody who has kids, they know that's a huge thing. If your kid doesn't have a sleep schedule, they are all over the place. But as soon as your kid has a sleep schedule, then they're able to get into this routine and they fall asleep. Well, we as adults are the exact same way. We just got older and then more things started happening, so we completely got off our normal sleep cycles, and now they're all sorts of jacked up, and then you add caffeine consumption to it, and it just messes everything up.
So is that the main thing that's separating the quality of sleep differences that people have? Is it the routine of leading up to bedtime or going to bed at different times? Like what are some of the factors that are affecting people's quality of sleep?
What I generally find is is having or lack of having a routine, that and caffeine consumption. When you, like I said, back to the having kids have to have that routine. Adults also have to have that routine, but now it's scrolling through your phone while you're sitting in bed. And that blue light stimulating the brain, think about it as similar to outside light. It sees outside light and the brain's like, oh, well, it's not time to go to bed then. So when you're sitting there and you're looking at your phone before you go to bed or watching TV or whatever, it's seeing this quote unquote outside light. And so your body thinks it's not ready time to go to bed. So when you do lay in bed, that's why you sit there in bed for an hour or 2 hours and you can't go to sleep, because your brain's thinking that it was just light out, so we're not quite ready for bed yet. We have to kind of power down. And so when you combine that with an overstimulation in our Western culture of how much caffeine that we drink, it it's already stimulating from the caffeine. Then you're stimulated from the blue light that you've been looking at right before you went to bed, not to mention how much you were scrolling throughout the day as a whole, and your body has a hard time letting go because of all of this extra stimulation that's going on. And so when I help clients actually figure out how to create a sleep routine specific to them, and then there's a couple little tricks that you can do that help out, then all of a sudden they start sleeping better and they start waking up refreshed. They start being able to actually focus on a project at work or get to the gym. Because if you've ever had a day where you didn't sleep really well, and I'm sure you've had these as well, your ability to fight the good fight, so to speak, goes down pretty dramatically, right? Like you're like, man, I really want that donut right now, or pizza or whatever. It's because willpower as a whole, and they've also done studies on this, is a battery. There's only so much there. So when you wake up not rested, your battery is already not full. And then you combine that to a rough day or in the wintertime when there's not much sunlight and all these different kind of things that happen, it makes your ability to make the right decision harder just because you didn't get sleep. I'm missing the number in my head, but it was something like people who even lost 2 hours of sleep in a night were like, they were going to eat 30% more calories in the day or something like that, 20 to 30%. Like I said, I missed the number. I'm going to have to look that up now that I say that.
I think it affects the hunger hormone.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't remember the name of that hormone.
I want to say leptin.
Yeah.
I believe that's right.
Just poor sleep.
Yeah.
Turns that thing on
real quick, and then you want to eat, and it's like, so then the next day, now you're recovered, we'll say, because you got sleep, but it doesn't matter, that one day made you make choices that you wouldn't normally make. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of this overall circle of, or downward spiral, I guess is a better way to think about it. So then what ends up happening, you're not getting sleep, so then you drink more caffeine the next morning to wake up. Well, then the caffeine, its half-life, especially if you're drinking caffeine like past noon or 1 o'clock, like even with people who are like, oh, I can drink coffee and go to sleep. Technically, they're right. They're actually sleeping, but their brains are not getting the rest that it actually needs. And I promise that if you were to take someone like that and have them refrain from coffee for like a month or more and track their sleep, it would definitely improve. It would absolutely improve. The reason people end up drinking caffeine is one of those things that it's kind of like alcohol. The more you drink it on a consistent basis, the more you need it to get the same effect.
Yeah.
When
are you recommending people stop the caffeine and stop the blue light?
About like noon to 1. If you're going, and I guess the better way to say that is within like 8 to 9 hours of sleep is when you want to cut the caffeine off. Blue light, about 2 hours is ideal. Mm-hmm. I have a hard time with the full 2 hours. I'm usually closer to like an hour to an hour and a half. So my sleep routine starts by actually turning the electronics off. And whenever I'm helping someone figure out their own sleep routine, I was like, I really don't care what the steps are as long as step 1 is turn off the electronics. So turning off the electronics, and then the other part of that is not being in your bed for other things than bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like you're kind of like hypnotizing, I guess you could say, or tricking your body into, hey, when I am actually in bed, I'm only sleeping. It's kind of like when you hear a song or you smell a scent and it kind of takes you back. That's what you're trying to do with your bed. So you're only having like some sort of, marital relations in your bed or sleep, and then that's it. Like you don't do homework in your bed, you don't chill in your bed, you don't read a book in your bed, like you don't do any of that. And as long as you adhere to really those two things, the steps that you do don't really matter in the sleep routine, as long as you do the same steps all the time. Like for instance, I'll give you mine. I start by, I eat first, then I turn off, I usually watch like an episode or two on my phone, something short for like 30 minutes, maybe an hour. And then I shower, I get out my clothes for the next day. Then I shower, then I brush my teeth, then I say my prayers, then I read my scriptures, and then I go to bed. And so that's the routine. So what happens as soon as I start that first step in the routine, my body is already starting to wind down then. So by the time I actually get to sleep, it's like, oh, it's sleep time because we already knew what was coming. And that's the whole point of that sleep routine. And so the importance of that is that your body has actually sleeping when it's time to sleep instead of laying on your back freaking staring at the ceiling because there's so much going on in your head.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like for at least the majority of our audience, I think this will apply a lot. You work till 4 or 5, and then let's say you do go to the gym. A lot of people are probably taking pre-workout, and that's 5 p.m., 4 p.m.
Yep.
that you're taking that. So what do you recommend for people that feel like they need pre-workout? Is there alternatives that they can take to where they can still get that, little boost of energy without affecting the night's sleep? Because you just had a long day of work. You're tired. You want to come into the gym and perform well to actually, get more fit and do better than you were, the week before.
Yeah.
But now you're compromising your sleep if you're taking a supplement that has 200 to 300 milligrams
or more.
of
Yeah, exactly.
caffeine. And that's, like you're saying, you can still sleep from it, but you're not going to get the quality.
Yeah, the
if
deep
you're
sleep
taking
isn't
caffeine
happening. Exactly, yeah. And you physically, you just can't. Like, that's what, I mean, we won't go into the deep hole of caffeine today, but, you just can't. So the first step I would say is how come we have to have pre-workout to work out? That would be my first step, because a lot of times what I find is that it's that sleep deprivation to caffeine to stay alert cycle. Generally, people that take the pre-workout, generally speaking, it's not going to be everybody, but they also drink coffee in the morning because they're just trying to be alert. And then by the end of the day, they're really, really dragging. Tends to also have a combination of like they're not eating enough. And so the body is constantly in this state of like undernourished, underrested, too stressed out kind of stuff. If we move past that and say those aren't problems, okay, so my first recommendation would be find a different kind of pre-workout. The ones that I personally like, I don't like the stimulant ones. I use a nitric oxide type of pre-workout. My favorite brand, can we say brands on here? I don't see why not. Yeah. FNX is a brand that I like. It's called Recharge. I've used a lot of others. Driven has another one called Flow. I like the Flow. I like the FNX one just a little bit better. I feel like I get longer sustained energy, and because it just helps dilate the blood vessels, I don't have to worry about this caffeinated spike that I get from it. If you don't want pre-workout, what I used to do back in the day is I would take fish oil. So take about, it was 2 fish oil pills. So what was that? 2 grams of fish oil and dark chocolate. Make sure it's 75% or more. Just like a little piece here, not like the whole chocolate bar. If it's like a bar, I'd probably take like a third of it. And the fish oil will help dilate the blood vessels, and then the dark chocolate will give you a little bit of bump. Obviously, it's not going to be anything like caffeine, right? But it is going to be enough that'll give you a little bit of jolt. I would do that whenever I'd have to work out, like in the middle of the day. Especially back in the day, here is also when I was fighting, and I was getting ready for a fight, meaning I was doing a weight cut. And generally back then, I was cutting about 25 pounds to fight, and I really couldn't sacrifice any carbs from pre-workout. So I had to, whatever I was getting, I was trying to get it through food as much as possible, just because it made me feel fuller.
Mm-hmm.
When you're cutting 25 pounds in 6 weeks is not fun.
Yeah.
Thank goodness I'm not doing that. I'll tell all my listeners, don't do that, by the way. If I were to ever fight again, I would not cut that much weight. That's a lot of weight. That was really ridiculous, but I digress.
So there is some natural things you can do. Certain supplements are non-caffeinated, but still provide the energy.
Yeah.
I think there's like certain mushroom, like First Form has a product that I think they use a lot of like mushrooms.
And On It has one too. I'm trying to think about it. I forget what it's called, but On It has another one. I took it for a little bit and it was okay. Like the first 2 months, it was amazing. I was like, oh my gosh, this energy came out of freaking nowhere. But then it was like really, really hit and miss. Like one time I would take it and it would be like nothing. And the next time I'd feel something, and it wasn't. I was like, well, maybe it's because I ate. And anyways, it was really hit and miss, and I just didn't like it so much. I like the FNX Recharge. That's my favorite one. Yeah.
What about the night owls? What about the people who are just like, bro, I never go to bed till 12 or 1 p.m. I've done it my whole life.
Yeah, I mean, you are going to have different people that can sleep at different times for sure. But the issue is if you're going to bed that late, like when are you waking up? Are you still waking up at 6? And I would say if you are, you're just not getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not. I mean, there are very few people. I know a guy, Scott Hershey. What's up, buddy? This dude is a phenom. He's in his 40s, and the guy sleeps like 4 or 5 hours, and he works out, and he goes to work. He's a surgeon, and he's an ENT. He's an ear, nose, and throat guy, and he can run off of very minimal sleep. And you also look at individuals that are in like really high performance, right? Like tier 1 operators in military or contractors, Navy SEALs, Special Forces, Marine Recon, TACPs, all these different guys. They can run off of very, 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 even like surgeons. I have another client that's a surgeon, and she's like, can sometimes be, at work for 36 hours and still be, doing surgery on people. So I do believe that you can operate and you can train yourself to do it, but it comes back to like, what is your overall goal in life? Like if your goal is to be a tier 1 operator, then yeah, you need to learn how to function off of little to no sleep. If you're a surgeon, you need to learn how to operate off of little to no sleep. If your goal is to lose 20 pounds and quote unquote live forever and have a higher quality of life, then you need to go to bed. And if you're constantly in that state of, well, I don't have enough time to sleep, then you're not making sleep a priority.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I would much rather, and I've actually done this with clients before, I would much rather you work out less and get more sleep than the other way around. It's like, well, I got to wake up at 4 because I got to go to the gym and hit an hour-long workout or a 2-hour workout, and then I'm going to go to work for 8 or 9 hours, and I'm going to do this. It's like I would much rather you work out 30 to 45 minutes per session 3 to 4 times a week and take that other time to sleep than I would to say go and work out harder. Overall, your life is going to be better if your body is repairing, because the progress that we make in the gym or that we're trying to make in the gym only happens when you recover from it. So you go and you work out or you're running or whatever it is that you're doing, you create these little micro fractures in the muscles and you legitimately tear them. So then what happens is by us eating enough food, in this case particularly protein, it fills those gaps, those micro tears in the body. And then when you actually go to sleep, it releases a lot of the hormones that continue that healing process. So then if you don't have those hormones because you're not sleeping, your body can't repair, which means that it's not growing as best as it could. And then if you're not eating enough, you're kind of back in the same thing. There's not enough nutrients there to actually repair itself either. And so you're constantly living in this state of like, okay, I see what you're doing now in the gym or at work, whatever. Imagine how much better you would be if you were sleeping more and making that focus. That's really what I'm trying to say. Like, yeah, but I'm doing da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, but you could be even better if you prioritize your sleep. And I'm not saying you need to be lazy and sleep 10, 12 hours a day, but I am saying that when you really want to be your best self, you can only do it when you're fully sleeping. Even tier 1 guys, like I was talking about military, they don't run off of 4 hours of sleep every day. They can't.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Yeah, it's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable.
Maybe for a short period.
Yeah. Oh, sure. And in those situations, you have to. It becomes it. But when we're talking about general health, like that's the wrong way. Sleep more and do less of the other things.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, if you're listening to me and you don't believe me, take me up on it. Challenge me on it. Do it for the next 66 days. Create a sleep routine and see how much better your life is.
Probably improve a whole lot.
Whole lot.
Yeah, especially if your sleep quality is really poor.
Mm-hmm. I have a client right now who is going through a lot, and I knew when I was talking to her that she was going to need to quit working out for a minimum of a month, but I knew she wasn't going to buy into it, so instead I told her 2 weeks. I since told her the truth, and she laughed, and she's like, well, yeah, you do know me pretty well. But the problem is we were about to begin a weight cut because it was getting close to summer, and she wanted to get a little more comfortable getting ready for the summer. And when she told me everything that was going on, she basically had like a mini meltdown, like a mini breakdown. And I was like, whoa, okay, hold on. We need to take a step back. And I was like, I know the solution. You're just not going to like it. And then she stuck to it. And now here it is 2 months later. And she's like, Cody, I can't even remember the last time I felt this good. And yes, she hasn't worked out, and I let her go on the bike a couple times a week, but she had to do nasal breathing only just to make sure that her intensity stayed down. And she fought me on the bike thing. She just wanted to get after it. But now she's like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better because we made an emphasis on lowering her stress. We made an emphasis on creating a sleep routine and going to bed and actually feeling rested when she woke up. I mean, how many people right now wake up and they're still groggy and they're still tired, like all the time, not just kind of, like all the time. That's chronic sleep deprivation, and that's not good.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, challenge me.
Yeah.
66 days. Go and do it.
Do it.
Do it. And I promise you'll see just such a magnificent change. The first little bit will be the hardest, especially turning off the electronics. That's always the hardest. People like their phones, and I get it.
Yeah.
It's hard.
What would be the minimum amount that you would recommend?
I would say focus on less on the duration and start focus on the routine and the quality. That'd be my first thing. Because if you can get a routine down, like I said, some people can operate in that range of 6 hours of sleep because they get just incredible sleep. So instead of focusing on time, focus on quality. Create a sleep routine. Okay. Once again, it doesn't matter what it is. Just make sure that you're turning off your electronics first, ideally an hour to 2 hours before you go to bed. Make sure you're only in your bed for sleeping. And there's other little things like sleep temperature between 61 and 69 degrees, heavier blankets, the room completely blacked out, reading fiction books before you go to bed, journaling. Don't read like self-help books before you go to bed because that starts stimulating creativity, and instead you're trying to stimulate imagination because that's how you dream. So if I can start thinking about, I was going to say what was that story when they went into the cupboard or went into the
Narnia?
Narnia, there you go. You read a book like that, that's very similar to how you're going to be dreaming, and then it helps you when you actually go to sleep. So, list doesn't need to be long, it just needs to be consistent.
Yeah. So quality.
Quality.
Get the routine down, and it should start kind of fixing itself.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you'll notice a difference in just 2 weeks if you do it consistently. And if you don't do it consistently, that's okay. Keep going. 66 days. Challenge me.
And as a reminder, no caffeine after noon,
Yeah,
1.
Afternoon or 1. Somewhere in that ballpark.
8, 9 hours before you end up going to bed.
Yeah. And we'll have another episode about caffeine all by itself because that's... Once I started learning about caffeine, what it actually is doing to you, I started cutting way back.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. But I think that's it for today. It's all on the sleep.
Yeah. Get your sleep.
Get your sleep.
And sleep good.
See you next time.